To go. Okay. Welcome to Coffee with Katie. My name's Katie Glasgow, and I am super excited to hang out with you today. I have some thoughts that are on my heart that I want to share. I even took notes and I journaled a whole lot of ideas that have been on my heart for a couple of weeks now that I wanted to share with all of you. And you're going to notice it's a little bit of a different format today. So let's dive in. I want you to grab your cup of brew, whatever that is for you. I've got a bulletproof coffee right here. I've already had a couple of these of water today, and I just got back from my run, and my heart is full for all of you, and my ideas are ready to pour out to you. And that's what we're going to talk about first before we start to dive into the theme of the seasons. And so if you're catching this later, it is September 4th. And the weather has started to cool down, and, the pumpkin spice lattes and all the things have come out. And so we're going into this new season. And so I want to talk about what that actually means and just explore a little bit more on if you're tuned into the seasons or if you're not. So first, I've got a couple of other things I want to announce and just chat it up with you about. So I am always about authenticity and truth. And one of my missions is to always show up in my most authentic self and in my most authentic truth. And a lot of my ideas and a lot of my inspiration comes when I am out moving. So it's like I start to get all these ideas, but when I get out and I get surrounded by nature, I get even more ideas. And it's like I have clarity with those ideas and they all come to me. I mean, I did a business venture. It was before I started my essential oil industry, my essential oil love. I actually had a travel agency, and I was called Go Iguana Travels, and I helped people put custom vacations together for Costa Rica. I have lived in Costa Rica, I have family there, and so I helped people plan custom vacations for Costa Rica. And I was out on a run one day. This is when I lived in California, and I had this entire, like, the name of the company, the tagline, what the logo would look like. And do you know that by the time I got home, I think it was a long run. It was like a 13-mile run. I was training for something. And by the time I got home, I didn't even remember that I had that idea until about, I don't know, like 10 days later. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have everything I need. And so getting out and getting movement is always big for me. And so I have been enjoying this fall weather with the crisper and cooler. And this morning I was out on my run/walk. I'm not even going to try to pretend that I can run the whole way right now. But I'm in it. It's progress, not perfection, right? And so I'm out and I'm having these ideas, and I'm always constantly evaluating everything I'm doing because I always want to be aligned with whatever I'm doing, aligned with my mission, aligned with my purpose. And you'll hear me say this over and over and over again on this, is that it is super important to me that I come to you authentically and in truth and always deliver everything I can in the best possible way. I understand that sometimes when you have to deliver the truth and your mission is to deliver the truth, it's going to sting sometimes, and it's not going to be the best, and it's not going to be hurtful and blah, blah, blah. Like, we can't always, a lot of times, change. We need to be able to open our eyes. But so I was out on my run this morning, and I came back and I was in this like super peaceful, blissful state. And my deck was calling me. And my deck, it was like in the morning, this time of morning, the sun still hasn't quite hit it. It's just kind of starting to hit it. And there's little cardinals and there's little birds out on my deck. And I came home and my house is quiet. My kids are gone. My husband's gone. I've got the whole house to myself. It's just the dog and I. And I start to look at the clock and I start to go, it's time for, like, I gotta start getting ready. Coffee chat is at 10. These people are waiting for me. We've got an hour. I gotta get ready. I gotta do my hair. I gotta put my makeup on and blah, 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 blah. And then I got the message, nope, just your deck is calling you. Your deck is calling you. So I made my smoothie and I made my protein shake. And instead of drinking it while I got ready for all of you, I sat down in my chair and I put some beautiful music on and I just allowed myself to breathe. I just allowed myself to sit there and soak up that sun and soak up that moment. And I realized at that moment, it didn't matter how I showed up to you. Physically, I just needed to be able to show up to you with the message that was on my heart. And so you're going to see that this coffee chat might start to take a little bit of a different form. When I first had the idea for it, it was going to be a weekly broadcast at the same time and the same day every single week to create that repetition. And as I've gotten into it, I think this is about the 10th episode, I'm realizing that sometimes when I try to put myself in a box, well, not sometimes, every single time that I try to put myself in a box, it doesn't work for me. It's really hard and it's too confined and it's too constricted. And most of us are like that, but we're taught from a very young age that these are the rules and this is how you do it. And when you have a creative brain, that's not always how you do it. And so, this might start to take on a little bit of a different feel. I'm still going to be delivering this. I wanted to invite you into my home. My goal is to always gather people as much as I can and to invite people into my home and into my space. And so this is probably going to take on a little bit more of a casual look and feel. I don't know if it's going to be at 10 o'clock every Wednesday or if I'm just going to go for when I'm inspired to deliver this. This is turning into a podcast very, very soon. I was actually listening to a podcast about podcasting today, and I want to make sure this is super easily accessible to everyone. And so just stay tuned, stay patient with me, but also know this is going to lead us into our message that I have for you today, and that's about seasons and understanding that there is a flow and a cycle to everything around us helps us not stay in the box so much. It guides us to not be in that box of small living, that box of restraint, that box of this is the only way I can do something, right? And so seasons help us understand that everything has a cycle, that everything in this world has a cycle, and we just have to wait for the next runaround. Nothing is ever complete. Everything will always continue. It's like the circle of life, the circle of the year, the circle of the seasons, the circle of the week, the circle of the day, the circle of the month, the cycle of the month, the cycle of the moon. There's seasons all around us, and there's always going to be a new season. And so we just have to start somewhere in the cycle and know that we can always reevaluate. And so that's why one of the reasons I'm always constantly reevaluating, everything I'm doing in my business, is it lined up with my priorities? Is it lined up with what I have in this world, or this what I'm here to do? Is this causing me stress? The other day I realized that something I was doing on social media, how I was posting content to you, not necessarily the content I was posting. I had all these ideas and all this content I wanted to get out, but what was stressing me is getting it out the platform I was using, right? I was using a platform that somebody else had said that they were using. So I was like, oh, this person is using it, and this person is uber big on social media, and she's got a huge following, so I should probably use what she's using. Oh my goodness. As soon as I actually listened to the shit in my head, I was like, oh, Katie, what are you doing? What are you doing? We need to change this. Unsubscribe to this subscription, right? This is causing you stress. There's a better way to get your content out to people, right? There's a different way. So, there's lots of things that also just remember, everything is a cycle and you can always catch it on the next one. Okay. So I understand that this is a different season for Magic with Katie coffee chats, but it's not going away. It's evolving. And that is the most beautiful, beautiful piece of it. Okay. So today I'm all comfy. I went out for a run. It's beautiful outside. I've got my diffuser going. I'm hanging out in my office. I have my coffee in one of my favorite mugs, and let's chat. Okay. So this concept of seasons, we're going into this beautiful new season. Okay. So fall doesn't actually start, right? We have June, July, September, right? Is when fall starts. No, it's October. I don't even know. Anyway, we're going in, but the air is starting to shift, right? We're already starting to know crisp in the morning if you're in the Midwest or where you have definite seasons. Okay. we're starting to have the seasons of a shift, right? The air is a little crisper in the morning. When I go for my walks, I notice that the trees, it's like the trees and the plants, they're starting to kind of go, we're going to exhale. The leaves are kind of starting to get a little bit brown. They're kind of sighing. They're drooping a little bit more. They're not necessarily all perky with, flowers. Although, oh my goodness, this morning there were some that were beautiful, these beautiful fall foliage that comes, that it's maybe too hot in the summer, but the fall foliage comes. And so there's some that say that the fall actually starts with the autumn equinox, which is September 21st. Some people say it starts earlier than that. Some people say it starts later. Some people say it starts in October. Some people say it starts when Starbucks starts bringing out the pumpkin spice lattes. But we're all like, a lot of us start to get excited when there's a change in season, right? We start to get this excitement. Ooh, I'm going to be able to wear a scarf again. I might be able to, pretty soon I'm going to be able to put on a sweater in the morning. I'm going to be able to go for a walk and not like at 10 o'clock in the morning and not be drenched with sweat because it's 90 degrees out. We have a season, okay? We're starting to shift into a season, okay? So if we look at the seasons of the year, we have winter, we have spring, we have summer, and we have fall, okay? And fall is supposed to be when we allow the harvest to come to us, okay? One of the biggest principles I teach to my network marketing team in doTERRA is the principle of the law of the harvest. Judge each day by the seeds that are sown, not by the harvest that is reaped. Okay. And what that means is that we should judge each day by what we're doing, what energy we're putting out, whose lives we're touching. We don't know where that harvest is going to go because sometimes that harvest isn't going to come in for a really long time. Now, I'm an Iowa farm girl, and so when I grew up, spring was all about, and this is spring most of the time, it was about the baby lambs and the baby cows and the baby horses and green on the leaves, and it was about planting the seeds. And a farmer only can control so much of planting a seed. He can plant the seed, but the reality is if you have a field of 1,200 acres of corn or soybeans or whatever it is, or hey, when you plant those seeds, you can't go out and water all of that. I mean, in some areas there's irrigation that they put up. But in Iowa, that's not very common. You're not going to go out and artificially water all of that crop. You have to trust, you have to give it up, and you have to surrender, and you have to trust that there is something greater than you that will bring the rains. You can't control the storms. You can't control anything else. You can only control how you planted the crop and how you nurtured the crop. Did you go out and did you cultivate? Did you go out and did you walk your beans and pull all the weeds? Whatever you did you do what you could? Okay. And so it's spring, it's all this new growth. And then you kind of have this summer where you just kind of have to sit and wait. There might be some different tasks that you have to do, but you have this summer where you kind of sit and wait. And then you go into the fall, and you have to put effort forward, but there is a harvest that can be reaped. Okay. And then you go into winter, and that's where you have silence. Now, I want you to think back to our ancient ways, and before we had electricity and before we had all the things that we have now, before we lived in this modern society, when we were connected, when we weren't disconnected from the earth, what happened? In the summer, you stayed up later, right? You had more hours of daylight. It was a period of a lot of activity because you could be outside. The weather was warm. It was nice. You could be outside. You could do the things. The spring too, it's like you were coming out of this slumber. You could be outside. The days were starting to get longer. So what's happening right now? The days are starting to get shorter. It's time to reap the harvest. But what happens in this modern day society is that we think we get off from this schedule. We get off from the seasonal patterns. We get off from the cycles because We get to work because we have modern technology. We have lights that can keep us up at night. We have that we can do anything all the time. We have groceries. We get off from the seasons because of the foods we could eat. It used to be you could only eat the foods of the seasons. That was all you had accessible to you. But now you can go to any grocery store, and in Iowa, I can get something from Hawaii, and I can have access to all these things. And so we get off in our seasons. We get off in our cycles. So what is that doing to us? That's my question for you today. I'm just here to open it just a little bit. I'm like the little can opener, right? I'm going to crack you open just enough to open up this thought pattern. How is this affecting you? Because the reality is when we get so far off from the seasons, and that could be the season of the cycle of the day, like it could be your circadian rhythms, and it could be the way that you're sleeping and the way that you're nurturing your body. It could be the foods that you're eating. It could be the cycles of the week. Are you resting on Sunday? Because in most communities, Sunday was always a day of rest, but are you resting on Sunday? Or do you have one day of the week? Or are you constantly trying to create in a life and in your business or for your employer or whatever it looks like for you? Are you constantly trying to push the envelope, continue to push and push and push and be in a constant state of push? And when you're in that constant state of push, you're up here in an aggravated state and your body is not in homeostasis. Your body is in a constant state of flight or flight. And the reality is it can be as simple. The simplicity of it is it can be as simple as just stopping for a moment and starting to get your body back into a natural cycle. Starting to get your body back into a natural sleep style and a natural cycle of the day, a natural cycle of the months. There's cycles all around us. The moon is a cycle. There's a full moon, there's a waxing moon, there's a waning moon, and there's a new moon. The moon was here to help us, our body stay within a cycle. Our bodies are made up of over 70% of water. And there's scientific studies that show how much the moon impacts water. And so if we think of that, our body, there's no way the moon is not impacting us. I don't care if you're all woo, woo, woo like me and into the magical and mystical, or if you're just like, sometimes like my husband is, and you're like, nope, don't understand that. We're just going to stay like this. The moon is here to guide us. The seasons are here to guide us. The hours of day and night are here to guide us. Are you allowing them to guide you, or are you getting off? Where are you at? I'm going to just check my notes here because I wrote a lot on this last night. My brain was on fire. So what do we do? Okay, so this is another thing. We're going into fall. This is, okay, so good. I might have to get a little drink of coffee before we go into this one. So when we trust the seasons, when we trust the harvest, the only thing we have to do is be rooted in our mission, be rooted in our purpose, and be rooted in the cycles and connected to the earth. So I want you to imagine, and this is what I've been noticing when I go for my runs, I want you to imagine a tree, an apple tree. We're going into the harvest, right? We're going into the harvest. I want you to imagine an apple tree. The apple tree, does the apple tree invite the wind, or does the apple tree force the wind? Does it like beg the wind to come to it, or does it just allow the wind to ruffle the breeze through its branches? And the same thing with the apples. Does it squeeze and try so hard to get those apples to come off the tree, or does it just allow the apples to grow? The tree just allows the apples to grow because the tree is rooted down into the ground. It's rooted down into nature, and depending on how big its root system is and where it's at depends on how much fruit it is going to produce. So a brand new baby apple tree might have 5 apples on it. I remember when we lived in California, we planted an orange tree, and I think the first year there was 4 oranges, and I was so excited for those 4 oranges. But it was a very new tree. It had just been planted. It didn't have a really giant root system. It wasn't large. And so it just had a few oranges, just a few. That was it. But I wasn't sad because that orange tree gave me what it could give me, okay? I want you to think about what you're doing. We're going into the fall. We're going into the season. This is not, in the business that I'm in, this is one of the highest volume areas of the entire year. This is when we have so many sales, and this is when a lot of companies have a lot of sales. We're going into the harvest, but here's the reality. If you are rooted in your mission, or you are rooted in your purpose of whatever you're doing, this is time for the harvest. Okay. You have to trust. You're not trying to squeeze out. And this isn't just this time of year. This is always. Don't try to squeeze out the outcomes. Don't try to force the outcomes. Unattach from them and trust that if you are rooted down into your mission and you show up as that strong tree with roots, you will have more results than if you just try to force it and make it superficial. So if you're somebody just getting started in your business, continue to root down into your mission, continue to work on you, to continue to develop you, because we're in a season of the fall. Okay. Now, this is my next question for you. Do you think it matters what season we're in the year cycle, or can we have different seasons of our lives? I think it's a little bit of both. So what I mean by that is not every season, just because it's fall, doesn't mean this is the harvest season of where I'm at in my business. I might be in a space of massive growth right now, but going into the spring, I'm going to be opposite. Right? So I just want you to start to think about these things. Okay. Start to think about the seasons and your cycles and all of the things, because it all makes a difference. Do you feel like you're in alignment with the seasons, or do you feel like you're off? Okay. Start to see, don't force everything. Just allow it to happen. Okay. All right. Now, before we hop off today, I always like to give you some assignments, and I like to give you some tips on what you need to do. How do you align yourself? How do you center yourself? How do you ground yourself in your mission? How do you show up? How do you do all these things? How do you get back into the seasons? Well, number one with everything, you hear me say this a lot, is that you always just must have awareness. That's it. Have awareness. That's all. Have awareness. And once you have awareness, start to notice. Start to notice what's going on around you. Are you in cycles with the season? When it starts to get dark outside, are you starting to wind down for the day, or is that when you're winding up? Maybe if it's when you're winding up, start to wind down, right? Turn off the lights, things like that. Put a diffuser in your bedroom. Start to create an ambiance. Are you waking up with the sun, or are you waking up because you didn't go to bed in time, and so you're waking up like after the rooster has crowed, right? Where are you? What are your cycles? Are you eating foods of the season? This can be a huge deal. Are you eating foods of the season? Right now, I bought some strawberries the other day, and I got them home, and they were so gross. And I was like, why was I even buying strawberries? We're starting to go out of strawberry season. I should be starting to buy apples and pears and things like that are more of a fruit of the season. What can you find at a local farmer's market? That is going to keep you in tune, okay? We're going out of a season of eating a lot of salads, unless it's like a nice fall salad with kale and things like that, and some butternut squash, because we're going out of that season. So allow your body to eat the foods of the season. Okay. So look at that. Look at your sleep patterns. Okay. Look at all these things. Get out in nature and connect down. And as you're outside, just breathe and connect. Use some essential oils. That's my whole game. That's my whole jam. I know that I'm here where I'm at right now because of using essential oils. They started to help my body. They helped my body shift. They changed my vibrations. They helped my body start to create more flow. And with that flow, they connected me back to a piece of the earth. Because when I started them, I was living in LA. So the farm girl had gotten disconnected from the earth. And so those oils started to shift my body and it started to get me back in. Go out and just be under the sun. Go outside and be under the moon. Spend time in nature. Do these things every day. Don't eat artificial foods, things like that. But most of all, just acknowledge that there are seasons. And as we go into this next season, this season of fall, so I do believe that we can be in different seasons of our life, but I am almost to the thing, but I do also believe that we must follow the cycles of the moon and we must follow the cycles of the year as well, no matter, just depending on where you're at, they're going to be different, right? Southern hemisphere is different than northern hemisphere. But start to notice the seasons. We're going into a beautiful, beautiful season of fall. The autumn, the harvest. It's time to slow down. Yes, we still have some work to do, but we're preparing for winter. Start to slow down. Don't be pushing so hard that you don't slow down. If the deck is inviting you to sit on it with your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, enjoy a moment of silence instead of getting yourself what you would consider perfect for a Zoom or a call or something like that. Allow yourself to sit. Allow yourself to breathe. Allow yourself to see all the beauty around you in everything you're doing, because today is not about forcing anything. It is about allowing yourself to flow, not just today, but every single day to flow. Stop living in the box. The box is not fun. The box is not magical. The box has too many restraints and too many restrictions. Allow yourself to start to just flow, to live outside of the box, to create a life of magic, to create your life of options, a life that works for you. And yours is going to be different than mine. But my mission is to come to you in my authentic truth and then to teach you exactly how to do the same. And so today, I'm going to conclude with two different things. I'm going to pull a card for you, but I also want to read to you the last quote I wrote for you last night before I went to bed. As I was allowing myself to breathe and to flow and to not worry so much about everything being perfect, I trust that the harvest will come and be abundant because I am aligned with my purpose and I allow spirit to move through me. Nothing will shatter me. Nothing will break me because I am rooted. I'm going to read that one more time for you all, and then we're going to close it. I trust that the harvest will come and be abundant because I'm aligned with my purpose and I allow spirit to move through me. Nothing will shatter me. Nothing will break me because I am rooted. So today I invite you to go out and get rooted into your mission, your purpose. Align yourself with the seasons and the cycles of the moon and of the harvest and of the seasons of life. Align yourself with whatever your season you're in and align yourself with your mission and purpose, and trust that when you do that, when you surrender to that cycle, the harvest will be yours. Thank you so much. Go out, live your life of magic. Connect with me on magicwithkatie.com. So many events, so much love out there. And I look forward to hanging out with you again for a magical, magical coffee chat.